we are talking about Superman. So yes, I finally got around to seeing Superman. Actually, I did see it on Friday. I did post a little out of theater review. So if you want to watch that, you can. It's still up on my channel. But today is going to be a longer discussion on all things Superman. Really just the entire live stream. We are going to go over a bit about the box office at the beginning, just so you guys get up to date on how it's doing. Is it doing well? Is it not doing well? Spoiler alert, it's kind of in the middle. But after that, we are going to go over my full review. And I know this live stream is much later than it normally is. I was busy all day yesterday, and then I had busy all day today. So I just could not get an earlier stream up. So if you are here today, this late at night, I appreciate it. For those who are watching after the fact, hello and thank you. I'm sorry you couldn't watch it live. I'm not going to make a habit of doing this too often. Hopefully I can get a live stream up on Sunday of next week. So please look out for that. I'm seeing some purple crowns on people's things. Okay, so I guess I have my top 3 fans here. I guess that's what YouTube is telling me. So I have Cupcake Express, you're number 1. Crystal Remisar, you're number 2, and then Naomi Long, you're number 3. So I guess you guys are my most engaged fans. That's cool. You got a little like crown next to your name. It looks really nice. Hi Sunset Draws. Hi Will French. Hi Blueberry Muffin. Hi Otani. Hi Molly Gothatel. I hope I said that right. Again, thank you all for who could make it tonight. Because it's already late enough, we're just going to go straight into the box office first for Superman. So, actually, before we even get to that, I do want to know who has actually seen this movie. This will be a mostly non-spoiler review. I shouldn't drop any heavy spoilers, but if I do, I'll warn you first. But I just do want a general idea to see if, like, have you guys even seen this movie? Is it just me? Because I know sometimes some of these movies you guys are like, I don't know this movie. But let me know in the chat while I talk about the box office here. So, yes. It opened at $123 million at the domestic box office. That technically does make this the best opening weekend for any Superman film in history. So this is bigger than Man of Steel, bigger than, of course, all the other older Superman movies. So this is, I mean, you would look at this and you would go, oh wow, it must be a massive, massive hit. And this is a good number. I'm not knocking it. This is a good number. This is a good opening number. Honestly, this is DC's best opening number in a long time. So this is something that I think James Gunn can at least, like, not be embarrassed about. Like, oh wow, at least, you know, I pulled out this number. And the reviews and audience scores have been pretty good for the most part. I mean, there is some polarization. Not everyone loves it, and I'm going to go over that in my own review. However, if you just look at the audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes and the cinema score, people for the most part do like this movie, especially normies. So this is doing well enough, I will say, that I think James Gunn just barely escaped embarrassment. Now, we'll see how well this actually does in the long term, but domestically, this opening is fine. I wouldn't say it's amazing or stellar. It's still lower than the Batman, and that didn't get close to $1 billion, so I don't think this will get close to $1 billion either. So it's not like a breakout phenomenon, but it's doing well enough, I would say, at least out of the gate. Now, unfortunately, before we get into that, I do want to mention that unfortunately, the international numbers are not nearly as good. I would even go as far as to say, like, this movie is kind of underperforming abroad, and in some markets even tanking. This movie is doing far, far, far better domestically than it is abroad, something that The Wrap even mentioned. So while, like, the opening number domestically is actually kind of good, the numbers abroad are so poor that they're bringing the overall numbers down. So it did open worldwide around $220 million at the global box office. Again, on paper that seems nice, but when you take into the account that the production budget is $225 million, probably more, but we'll say $225 million. Marketing is $100 million, and then, you know, they don't get to keep all the money they get from distributors, so we'll see. Again, I think How profitable this movie is, or if it will be profitable, all depends on how well it holds in its second weekend, and then after that, like, basically this movie needs to hold really well, especially with the international numbers being so soft. This needs to have like an insane hold. And there's an account that I follow that I really like on Twitter, that talks about the box office. It's the Exhibitor Relations Co. They're a company that also talks about box office stuff, so they have really good insights. So I just wanted to read what they said, and I wanted to talk about it. So DC Superman debuted with 95 million overseas this weekend and over 50,000 screens in 78 markets. While that's a solid number, this reboot isn't going anywhere near 900 or 700 for that matter. Needed a big push. China bombed with just 6.6 million, while the UK and Mexico were number 1 and number 2 with 9.8 and 8.8 respectively. So yeah, this did not do well in China. Now, a lot of American films haven't been doing well in China, and to be honest, and this kind of goes into my bigger reason why I don't think this movie is performing as well abroad as it is here in the States, is that Superman is known for being like, kind of like Captain America, where he's very much an American coded superhero. He isn't just like a generic superhero that could be from any country or represent any country. This Superman's very much an American superhero, and I think that, America's reputation is not super stellar abroad. So what in the world is going on in my chat? Sorry, I need to deal with, I have a spammer in my chat. What the heck? Usually I have a moderator who could help me, but not today. Hold on. Need to fix this, cause I don't know who this person is and they're gross and weird, but they're getting blocked from my channel. Alright. So, sorry about that. Sorry for anyone who had to see those comments. Those were really nasty. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. Crystal, you loved the movie? Okay, that's good. That's really good. I know some people really love it. My mom liked it. But I spoiler alert for my review, I guess I can say, is, although I did tweet this, I liked Superman, I did, but I didn't love it nearly as much as I was hoping to. So that was kind of my issue. But we'll get into why I said that in a bit. Hi, Cheetah Viper. But anyway, back to my review. Just got distracted there by some weirdo idiot. Anyway. Where am I? I forgot that was on the site. You probably saw that. Oops. Anyway. The crux of what I was trying to say originally was that this movie is not doing nearly as well abroad as it is here in the States, and I think part of why that could be is that their reputation is not that great, and maybe people don't want to see a super hoorah America film right now, especially China. So I can see this being like a political thing on other countries' part. Like, why would I want to go see an American superhero right now? And also, I just think that like superhero fatigue is a thing. I do think that the fact that like this is not really igniting any interest, or not nearly as much interest as it should be, especially abroad, just signals that like superhero films are not what they used to be. Because Superman is a huge character. He should be a huge draw, and he's not, or at least not as much as like he could be. And I think that just shows you how weak the genre is. I do think that this shows you the genre overall is just not in a healthy place, because I think this was just like 5 years ago. I think this number would have been a lot bigger. And if this doesn't make 700 million, I think that would be actually pretty bad. And I think, honestly, if the international number stays as bad as it is and like domestic doesn't hold super stellar, I could see this even ending up in like potentially the 500s, which would be like terrible. I'm not hoping for that. I'm not rooting for that, but I think that there's still that potential. I think 5 to 700 being the absolute ceiling is like where I think this movie's going to end up. And I think that might just be enough to get us more from the DCU. So even if this movie technically doesn't make any money in theaters, the fact that the overall reception to the movie has been positive, even though it's not like stellar, there is some like, discourse. But the scores indicate that a lot of people who saw it did like it. I think right now they care more about, do people like it? Sorry. Okay, we're good. Can we get people excited to want to see more from this universe, to go see Supergirl and so on and so forth? And I think they did succeed in that. So even if this movie doesn't like totally win over the box office, I think they already might have done enough to greenlight what's next. But I do think there needs to be some growth from here, especially abroad. But what do you think of the box office? Do you think this is good? Do you think this is bad? Do you think it could have made more? Are you surprised? What are your thoughts? There's a lot going on in the movie, yeah. I will say, we'll talk about it in my review. Crystal says, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. We love him here because the animated series in Smallville had a hold on us. But I was disappointed that the theater wasn't full. Yeah, a lot of theaters weren't full, especially abroad, which is kind of the problem. Dorian says, it could be because MCU hurt the genre. It could be because Superman specifically is maybe known to, is made to opt without flaws. But a lot of coworkers are talking about it. Yeah, Superman has been like, I blame kind of Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder for making a lot of people think that, like, Superman was super boring, because I think his version of the character was super boring. But I think that, and you'll see in my review, I do think David Cornswet was a more interesting take on the character. However, I do have more issues with the movie, broadly. But we'll see how strong the word of mouth is, because it is, even though the scores are so positive, it is, like, you still hear a lot of people who don't like it, so I don't know if, like, the word of mouth is going to be that glowing. I'm really curious to see how well this movie's going to hold. I'm still not sure. Molly says, are people still into DC movies compared to what Marvel was doing? Well, they're trying to get people to care about DC. I have to say, I see a lot more positive, talk around DC than Marvel right now, so they've got that going for them. But, oh my gosh. Sudoku, you really did not like that movie. Okay, we'll get to my review in a second. In fact, let's go to my review right now. So, let's talk about Superman. Did I even move? Hold on. Did I forget to, show you? Did you guys see the box office slides at all? Or did I forget to go back after I had to, block that person? Did you guys see any of that? Did I forget to switch that? I'm so sorry if I did. No one said anything. No one's still saying anything. So, you know what? It's no big deal. Let's go to entertainment news. So yeah, Superman. Overall, as I said in my tweet, I liked it, but I didn't love it. And there are many reasons for that. And as I go through my review here, I'm going to go over some of the things I did like, and I'm going to go over some of the things I didn't like. And you'll see why I eventually came to the score that I did, and why I think it's pretty fair. So let's start off talking about what I was hoping for. Because as I put on the, thumbnail, it wasn't what I was expecting. Let me talk about what I was expecting, or at least what I was hoping from this movie, before I can talk about why I might have been disappointed in certain things. So here's what I was hoping for. For me, Christopher Reeves has been still, the shining example of what Superman is. I don't read the comics. I've always been upfront about that. So like, my knowledge from about these characters largely comes from the movies. And for me, Christopher Reeve's Superman has still been like the quintessential Superman. And the main reason I like his Superman so much is because he's, well, a lot of reasons, but one of the things is because his movies tended to focus more on like the interpersonal conflicts between like him and Lois and him and the other characters. It showed a lot more of his life as Clark Kent and what it was like, you know, living a double life. Those are the things about Superman that I find interesting. And I like that his movies showed him using his powers in creative ways, not just to like save the day and stop the end of the world or whatever, like these high stakes things, but one of my favorite things that's actually in those Superman movies is when he flies around the planet to turn back time. I love this. A, because it's a super cool thing that a superhero could do, but also is because he's directly doing this for Lois. Like, that's what I mean when I'm saying, like, I like the interpersonal dynamics more in those movies, because it's a lot of, even though it's a Superman movie and there's lots of comic book stuff happening, at the core of the movie, the core of the story was really the relationship between Clark Kent / Superman and Lois Lane, and like what he was willing to do to like help save and protect the people that he loves. And like, to me, that's what Superman is. That's who he is. He is a person that has godlike powers and can do whatever he wants. But he chooses to use those powers for good and to like help the people that are directly closest to him. And that's what I always found interesting about the character, and why I did not like Henry Cavill's at all. Because all they wanted to do with him was like this godlike messiah, emo Jesus thing that I was just not feeling like whatsoever. So when I was watching the trailers for this new Superman movie, I was thinking that that's the direction that James Gunn was gonna go. I thought, especially with like the posters are very like Christopher Reeves-esque, like I think the movie was intentionally marketed to remind you of the Christopher Reeves version, and I fell for that marketing, because that's not really what this movie is at all, or even what this Superman is at all. What this Superman is whenever he's using his powers, for the most part, it's because he's in some sort of like weird comic book hijinks that often have nothing to do with like the core like characters that are closest to him, like Lois and the people of the Daily Planet. I mean, honestly, the characters of the Daily Planet become like background fodder as the movie goes on, and like more of the comic book weirdness takes center stage. I did not like that. Like there's a scene where he's like fighting a giant kaiju, and it's like not really relevant to the larger story, but it's just like a random like superhero hijinks thing that he has to do, and I'm like, why are we spending time on this? Even these characters, which I know, like Mr. Terrific, a lot of people really seem to like him, and I liked him too. However, I could have gone this whole movie without any of these characters here. I didn't feel like they really added enough to this movie where I was like, oh yeah, now I understand why they had to be here. To me, every time the movie focused on them, I wish they were focusing on Superman and Lois instead. Like, I feel like, especially with Lois, I really liked Rachel Brosnahan's Lois. And she got less and less screen time as the movie went on, and they got more and more screen time as the movie went on, and I was like, I care way more about this one storyline than these characters, and like, that just kind of represents the problem I had with this film. Like, there's a scene in this movie where Superman is just in like a weird CGI soup where he's in like a river made of atoms heading towards a black hole carrying a green super baby. And it was in this moment. Yes, all of this is true, all of this happens. But it was in this moment where I was like, what is happening? Why are we doing this? Why are we spending so much time on this? Like, this isn't even a short scene. This is actually like a huge like section of the movie tied to a series of unfortunate events in a pocket universe. And I was like, I quite literally during this scene, I was like, why are we doing this? Why is this taking up so much time when you have a million other characters and a million other things to be focusing on instead? But we're doing this? Like, I like action scenes. I'm not saying I wish the movie had less action scenes. In fact, one of my favorite scenes in the movie was towards the end when, like, Superman finally unleashes his superpowers and goes, like, beast mode on all these, like, villains or whatnot. And he uses his ray vision. He, like, does the spin thing to get people off. Like, that was cool. Most of his action scenes were more like that. I would have been, like, fine with that. But instead, it's, like, just random stuff. It's just, like, a series of random comic book events for the most part. That's kind of how this movie felt like to me. And I was just, every time he had to, like, tackle some new weird, like, comic book gobbledygook, it just got, like, weirder and more strange and, like, less focused on, like, the plot that I cared about, which was actually, like, Lois and Clark. Like, anytime that it was just, like, Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornswet in that apartment together, I was, like, fully locked in. I loved these moments with them together. I think they had crazy chemistry. I think they had far more chemistry than Amy Adams and Henry Cavill, like, night and day kind of different chemistry. And I was loving these. This is the movie that I wish that the film actually was. And, like, this is the movie that I felt like the movie was teasing in the trailers, which is why I felt a little disappointed when I left, and I realized that not only is this relationship not really the focal point of this movie, it actually becomes even less of the focal point as the movie goes on. So, like, by the end of the movie, Rachel Brosnahan's, like, barely in it, and I'm just like, I don't care about any of this other stuff. Like, it's just way too much going on, and I was like, there is a really good movie here that could be, and then there's, like, a whole level of, like, junk on top that if you just cut out of the movie, I think it would be so much better. And that's honestly how I feel about it. And this is coming from someone, if you've been watching my channel for a while, if you've been watching my live streams, then you know that I was, like, genuinely, like, excited about this film. I thought all the trailers looked good, probably because I think the trailers were a bit dishonest. I thought I would really like this film a lot more than I did, so I'm a bit disappointed. But there are things that I did like, and this relationship and a lot of the scenes with them was one of the things that I did like. In fact, I like the Daily Planet scenes. I like these characters. This crop of characters here, minus maybe Jimmy Olsen, were the characters I hoped the movie would focus on the most, because that's what I thought the movie was the most interesting. If this movie was, say, like, for example, one of my favorite parts, or one of my favorite, like, gags in the film is the fact that, like, sorry, I'm trying to fix this. One of my favorite gags in the film is that, like, Lois and Clark are trying to hide the fact that they're having this office romance and they don't want people to know. But also, which I thought was an interesting twist, that Lois actually already knows that Clark is Superman. Like, he doesn't have to hide that at the beginning. He already knew that, like, straight up. And I felt like that should have been the focus of the movie, that if this was, like, kind of like Spider-Man 2, like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2, where it was, like, mostly about Clark working at the Daily Planet, trying to hide his identity from his workmates while he's, like, dating Lois, but also trying to save the city from Lex Luthor. That's the movie I wanted, and this is not what that movie is. I feel like the beginning almost set up that kind of movie, but then it was just like, random crap after random crap just kept happening, and I was like, but I don't care about this random crap. And it was so disappointing, because, like, I felt like the bones of, like, a really great Superman movie were here, and they were just kept constantly being, like, covered in crud with, like, the next most weird scene that didn't need to be there. And I feel like that the tonal issues that, like, a lot of the rumors were saying, like, were a problem in the movie, I think is definitely true. And I thought I would like the more sillier elements. And to be honest, I don't even think the comedy really worked for me. Like, I barely laughed. Like, I didn't think this movie was actually funny at all. In fact, I would go as far as to say I think this is James Gunn's least funniest movie. Like, usually in his movies, I laugh pretty hard, or at least a few good chuckles. I don't think I actually laugh out loud like once in this film. It's not that kind of movie. Like, I think these characters were supposed to be like mostly the comedic relief, but I didn't find them that funny. Um, so again, it just kind of made them annoying that they had so much screen time when that screen time, in my opinion, should have went to the Daily Planet characters, who I thought that storyline was just more interesting. Whenever they were on screen, I just knew it was going to be more CGI gobbledygook, and that was pretty much what happened. Um, but again, another issue that I had with this is that going back to Christopher Reeves, one of the things that I liked about the Christopher Reeves version is that whenever, he would turn into Superman, he would become more confident. He would become like more suave. Even in these two side by side pictures here, you can kind of see the difference in just how he's holding himself. I did not find that there was like any difference between his Clark Kent and his Superman. Like, he's just as bumbling and incompetent and frankly kind of dumb as Superman as he is as Clark Kent. And I didn't like that. At first when I was watching the movie, it didn't really like dawn on me. But like, as time has gone on, I've really realized that like that was an element of the film that also disappointed me. Um, I don't like that they kind of made Superman almost dumb. Like, they kind of made it seem like he wasn't just a good person. He was so naive at how the real world works that he just couldn't help but be a good person. Like, I didn't like that. I kind of feel like, again, with like Christopher Reeve's version, his decision to be more like a good person came from his intellect. Like, he was actually a very smart person. And like, when he was Clark Kent, he was like playing at the act of being a nerd because he was trying to hide. He wasn't actually being a nerd. Whereas in this version, he kind of actually is a nerd who just happens to be Superman. And like, and sometimes it's charming just because I think David Cornswet is really charming, and that kind of goes back to like one of the things I actually did like about the film. Because ironically, even though I didn't like that the difference between his Clark Kent and Superman weren't that different, I liked David Cornswet, the actor, like, so much just playing him. Like, he's such a charismatic, charming dude that you can tell, like, even not as Superman, he's probably like a good dude in real life. He makes it work for me. For me, he was my favorite character in this film just because even though this movie wasn't exactly what I was hoping for, he did bring a tinge of that, like, sort of good old boy Superman that I was hoping for, just because I think that David Cornswet might actually kind of have that in real life. And I really liked that. I do think he was cast extremely well. Another person I thought was cast extremely well was Nicholas Hoult. Again, in the trailers, as you've been watching my review or my live streams, then you know that I was actually a little worried about Nicholas Hoult, that he might be miscast, because I kind of didn't like his performance in the trailers. But in the movie, he's actually really good. He's actually, like, extremely good. And there's this scene right here, that's why I chose this image, where he made my audience gasp because he did something so incredibly evil. Like, he's, like, probably one of the best movie villains I've seen in a long time. And if you've been watching, again, my live streams for a while, you know I've been complaining about movie villains because a lot of them haven't been that great, particularly Disney ones. This is a good movie villain. He was menacing. He was also just kind of, like, a jealous, like, hater. Like, he even kind of admitted he was just doing it because he was jealous. Like, he was literally like the world's biggest hater, but he made it work so well that I actually really liked his character. Another character I liked was his girlfriend. I really liked her. She kind of reminded me of Madison if you watch She-Hulk. She was very much that, like, ditzy kind of preppy girl vibe, but she was really, really funny. She was also another, like, she was one of the, honestly, I think she was one of the only, like, elements of this movie I thought was actually funny. I thought the humor from her, worked. But she was the only one that really was able to make me laugh in this movie. Someone who did not make me laugh was Jimmy Olsen. He actually made my audience groan. My audience groaned at him because they did not like how he treated this character here. I won't spoil what their dynamics are, but these two have a certain special relationship, and there's literally something he does to her towards the end of this movie that made my audience groan. I love when my audience is in agreement and like we all hate something, and like I could tell my whole audience hated this character, which is so disappointing because this actor, if you ever seen Santa Clarita Die on Netflix, I loved that show. I was so mad that they ended it. The cliffhanger kills me. But he was like, this actor is actually like a comedic genius. He's hilarious. So I feel like James Gunn really did not handle him well. I think he misused him because he was one of the actors I was actually looking forward to most in this movie, and I ended up liking his character the least because of how he was written. So that was really disappointing. James Gunn in general, I had to bring him up because, you know, his DNA is really all over this movie. I feel like this isn't my least favorite James Gunn film. I would still say my least favorite James Gunn film is The Suicide Squad. I really didn't like that movie at all. I would even say I liked this movie more than Guardians 2, because I did not like Guardians 2 at all. But I would say those are my only like James Gunn films I would put below this movie. I think that the first and third Guardians movie are far better than this. I even think the 2 Scooby-Doo movies he did are better than this. So yeah, I think this is like middle tier James Gunn. I don't think it's his worst work, but I don't think it's his best work. I think the humor actually was a miss for me in a way that it was a miss for me in Guardians 2. I think that he couldn't help himself with certain gags and certain like overstuffing of characters, which he tends to do in his movies, and I feel like that was this movie's biggest flaw, is that there was too many characters and too many weird things going on, and that's just all James Gunn. He even said he was not the right director. I believe he said he was not the right director to direct Superman, and after seeing the movie, I do think he was correct. Because even though I do think he's a good director, I do think that he's not the right director for this kind of property. Superman needed someone like Christopher Columbus. Someone who can, like, really tap into, like, the heart. And, like, I would even say, like, the heart of a child. Because, like, Superman also has to have a bit of innocence to him. And even though I do like David Cornswet's Superman, there was no real innocence to him. So I still feel like that element of the movie was missing. And I think that's just because James Gunn cannot write from that perspective whatsoever. I do think he is limited as a director from that standpoint, even though I do think he's a good director. So yeah, overall, with my positives and negatives for the film, I do like some of it. Some of it really works. I'm still left excited for what could potentially become of this universe. I do want to see David Cornswet again because I think he was so well cast as Superman. I do want to see Supergirl just because I do liked her little tease at the end. I think that was fun. And I liked Rachel Brosnahan, and I liked Lex Luthor. So because I liked those characters, even though I had a number of issues with this movie, I'm still going to give this film a 6.5 out of 10. So not a rotten score. I don't think it's bad. If I were, like, on Rotten Tomatoes, I would still give this a fresh score. However, like, my actual, like, Metacritic score would probably be like in the 60s, because that's where I feel like this movie really lands. Like, it's good. There is a lot to like in it, but it's far from perfect, and there's enough that I didn't like that I can't give it higher than that. Even though I really wanted to like this movie a lot more than I did, and I'm frankly a little disappointed. But what are your thoughts about Superman? Did you like this movie? What are your thoughts on my review? Is there anything I didn't bring up that you want to talk about? Because that's basically my whole review. Sketch 9 says, he fumbled it so hard, it's not even funny. It made me think he was secretly in the closet. That's the vibe I got. Are you talking about Lex Luthor? Because honestly, I got that vibe as well. Because there was no other real reason for him to, like, be so mad at Superman other than jealousy, and honestly at certain scenes it felt like it was more than jealousy, if you know what I mean. Well, I'm so surprised that a lot of you in my chat are saying the movie is bad. Like, I expected, because, like, the reviews are, like, mostly positive. Like, the scores are mostly positive. So it's interesting that still a lot of people don't like it. Even a lot of you in my chat. Omar says he should be DC studio head only and take on the Kevin Feige producer role. Let other directors and writers do the role. Yeah, I don't know if he should be directing and producing at the same time when he's supposed to be, like, a studio head. I think that could also be an issue. Especially if all these movies just become, like, James Gunnified. I don't know about that. Naomi, you give it a 5.5? Oof. You guys are being much harsher on this movie than even I am. I'm surprised. Nagisa, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. I love the movie so much. It was peak for the Pa Kent scene was amazing. Well, okay, on the other end of the spectrum, we have someone who loved it. So, again, I think this movie is very polarizing, although everything I heard about this movie from behind the scenes sounded like it was going to be polarizing. I mean, even my own opinion of the movie is polarizing. Like, I like some of it, but I don't like other parts of it. So yeah. Oh no, the Kinetic, you gave it a 3.5. What? That's crazy. Okay, but Sketch 9, you really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's like half and half. Maybe I should do a poll. I haven't had a poll in a while. Let me do a poll. Why not? I'm gonna ask. The question is, did you like the movie? Ooh. Hold on. Where did I put it? Okay. So, running a poll now. Did you like Superman? I'm gonna put yes. It was okay. Hated it. Then didn't see it. Alright, the poll is up. Omar would give it a 7. Lawrence gives an 8.5. We're all over the place here. Okay. Lawrence says, compared to the crap we've been getting for the last 5 years, this was pretty good. But that just sounds like your expectations were on the floor, which I'm not sure is, like, really a glowing statement. Wilderness Style says, I was thinking the same thing about Lex. LOL. Also enjoyed the movie. M. Moon says, divisive film. Key elements from the original story was altered that older fans are not liking. Yes. I do know, like, the main spoiler that some super fans are mad about. To be honest, because I don't read the comics, I couldn't care less. So that's why I didn't bring it up, because I was like, I don't care. I thought that element of the movie was not, like, something that was not the reason why I was upset with it. Or not upset, just more disappointed. So we've got 37 votes so far. Where are we at? So 32% of you have not seen it yet. But that means most of you have, which is great. 38% of you loved it, so that's good. 23% of you only thought it was okay. And only 5% of you hated it. So I guess the haters are the vocal ones in the chat then. Because most of you actually liked it. I'd put it in the it was okay category. I think I'd be in that 22%. But the fact that 39% of you loved it is actually really strong. And I think reflects the audience scores. So most people do really love this film. But it's not everyone. But yeah, this is actually a really interesting poll. I'm glad I did it. I do like it more than Man of Steel, though. But I think I've bashed that film enough. So I'm not going to bash it even more. But yes, Man of Steel was not my cup of tea. Even though I didn't love this film, this is much more my cup of tea. But anyway, I'm going to end the poll. We're at 42% loved it, 20% thought it was okay. So yeah, most of you liked it. Only 4% hated it, so that's pretty good, actually. But anyway, that is actually it for today. Maybe because I have a little bit of time, I could do a few questions on Superman. And then that'll be it for today. Any questions on Superman? Lil Danny says, movie tickets are way too expensive. I was buying them online and the 4D version cost $91 for 4 people. See, this is why you gotta get AMC A-list. It's the only way, only reason I've been able to, like, see all these movies, because, yeah, it is expensive. Jay says, a male friend saw it Saturday and he liked it. No rush from me. Okay, see, a lot of people do like it. Somar thought the jokes were formulaic. Yeah, I didn't think it was that funny. I was surprised. I was expecting it to be funnier. I'm glad you liked my review, M. Moon. Oh, Crystal says Snyder's Superman doesn't exist to you anymore? Did he ever really? Sorry. I mean, but y'all know it's true. I thought Mr. Terrific was okay, but as I told you, I thought that whole group of characters I could have done without. Like, I thought they were just there for superhero hijinks, and I just wasn't. Honestly, as I said in my short that I made, this movie actually made me, like, question if I even still like superhero movies, because the elements of the film that I liked the least were the most superhero comic booky. And I feel like maybe that's just a sign that maybe my tastes have changed. I don't know. Oh, Nick, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it. After seeing this movie, what are your thoughts on the future of the DCU? Oh, that's a good question. I think it's in a stronger place than it was before. I mean, like I said, people are being more positive about DC now than they've been in a long time. And a lot of people do like this movie. And I've seen a lot of praise for Supergirl. I thought the tease for Supergirl was actually very effective. But I also thought and still continue to think that, what's her name? Emily Alcock? Or what's her name? The girl from House of the Dragon, who's going to be Supergirl. I thought she stole House of the Dragon, and I think to this day she's still the only one that really broke out from that show. I thought she was the better Rhaenyra. I have not liked Emma Darcy as Rhaenyra. I've actually been very disappointed. Did you guys see the new House of the Dragon poster? I think that was an official poster. But I saw a poster for House of the Dragon where it was like, Rhaenyra was just crying again. And I was like, how is she crying all the time? She's so annoying. But anyway, Millie Alcock, that's you. Yeah, I think that there's promise for the future of the industry. I mean, not the industry. For DC. I think there's promise for the future of DC just because people are at least interested. And I think even if you didn't like this movie or had problems with it like I did, you can still like be excited to see more of these characters like I am. Like, I want to see more of David. I hope this is the last time we see him. So I think overall it's in a better place than it was, but it's still not in a super strong position. That's how I would put it. But anyway, that's it. Thank you for coming to my live stream. I might have another live stream this week where we go over news, and I did also see Jurassic World and Demon Hunters, by the way. So I might have more reviews coming up. But just make sure you subscribe to the channel and also follow me on Twitter for updates, because I'm going to let you know when I'm going to go live. But yes, thank you for coming today. This has been a great